In this movie, we're going to take a look at how to create an entry-exit for a part that's going to be cut using EnRoute Fab, and the type of toolpath is a kerf compensation toolpath. That's how we're going to apply a offset based upon the amount of material the tool will remove as it's cutting through the part. And there are a couple factors to take into consideration when doing the entry-exit. The first one is if we have all the parts selected here, like we have on screen, and if it's blue and red, then that means that the toolpath is going to apply to the outside of the blue line, the inside of the red line, and they will be grouped together so that I would no longer be able to select just the inside part. When I select this, that whole shape is going to be selected. Each of these shapes will be independent of each other, but wherever there's a blue and red, those will be connected together. So sometimes if I want to have a different entry exit on the inside parts than I do the outside parts, I might select them separately and put the paths on separately. For this first example, we're going to keep them selected together. The next thing is that the start point location is going to have an impact on where that entry exit happens on the selected contours. And we can get the start point here from the setup menu, preferences, and we see there's a number of tabs here. We're going to click on start point. There are a few different settings we can have here that will determine where the start point will be. The longest edge would help it become on a corner, and that is based on a selection of each individual shape. A direction is based upon a 0 to 360 sweep angle of each of the parts being toolpath. The magnetic has to do with a location on the sheet, an XY location where the toolpaths will be drawn to that, magnetized toward that. And it might help keep your entry exits away from the edge of the part if you had a desire to do that. And finally, we have the longest segment, which is going to look at the shape being cut, each individual letter, and then it's going to specify the longest line segment or arc segment and place the entry exit either in the middle of that line or towards one of the corners of it. So I'm going to keep it checked to the middle for now. All right, now I've got my object selected. I'm going to the toolpath menu and selecting kerf compensation. And this brings up my kerf compensation dialog box. And we have some variables here, the kerf or the amount of material being removed, which might change based upon the amperage. A feed rate, which is ignored for many machines, but it's there if you want to put it there. We have the direction, climb versus conventional, which is, it can be counterclockwise versus clockwise. It'll change based upon this setting for any selected object. And the entry exit parameters. And for this first example, we're going to use an arc entry exit for both the entry and the exit, a 0.25 inch radius, and a 45-degree angle. So when I apply those, we see first of all that if I select the inside here, it still automatically connects to the outside. And if I hit F9, it will paint a little thickness to the area being removed by that tool as it's cutting and allow us to see where the pierce points are relative to the edge of the part. And we see direction arrows here. So this is actually going inside here. It's going counterclockwise for this inside cut and clockwise for the outside cut. Okay, so to get a feel for how these are calculated, I can actually come here and draw a shape that will represent this entry exit. And if I go to the draw circle tool, you can remember that the radius of this is 0.25 of the entry exit. And I can take that little preview here and I can put the top of it pretty much right in the middle of where this shape is. And you can see how the entry exit is formed based upon the shape. I'm going to hit F9 now. And you can see that the radius here, the bigger I make the radius, the bigger it would make this particular blue circle that's representing the entry exit. And that shows you how it's going to come into the part. And then the sweep section here, 45 degrees, is going to go just 45 degrees from 0 on each side. If I change that to 90 degrees, and let's just put the cursor over the middle here. Let's say I change that to 90 degrees. Oh, and then we're going to change the angle of the exit to 90 as well. You can see that it just uses a bigger sweep section of that radius. So I can use this to kind of formulate different entry exit parameters. And once you have something that represents how a good something that will give you a good result, and many people have different ideas on what the best way to get a good result is, you can save this as a template and then reuse it. So here I have a few strategies with different kerfs and different types of entry exits, and that can easily be changed. So you can just use this as a starting point and then make changes based upon any parameters that might change, but it's just a way to get things done a little faster. So I can get rid of this circle now, and I see that each of these parts has an arc entry exit based upon the longest line segment. And that might work for the most part for lots of different objects. But if we take a look at this text up here and the circle here, there might be some areas where we might want to do things a little differently. Now let's say that instead of doing this arc circle, you wanted it actually to be a straight line that's going to cut in a perpendicular motion into the part and then travel around. And I've seen that done in various places and heard that's a recommendation for doing inside circles. So if I select just this shape now, let's delete this toolpath and concentrate on this one. I probably wouldn't want that 90-degree perpendicular motion for the outside part, so I'm gonna continue with this curve compensation for the outside part as it currently is, and we can see that down here. Actually, I'm gonna make this. I just made that change. I'm gonna make this back to 45, 45. All right, so there's my inside, my outer part, and now I can select all these shapes by dragging a box around these, but not around the outer shape. And you can see they're all blue still because these are no longer part of something to the outside. These are all original objects on their own. Nothing is inside of another shape here. That's why there's no red. And in this case, I'm going to change the curve to an internal cut. So if I'm going to do the male and the female separately, then I'm going to make the female cuts be female. I mean, the inside cuts be female and the outer cuts be male. And I'll do that separately. The path won't do it automatically. It's only when it's blue and red and I use a male cut or a female that it'll alternate. So here I'm going to the inside, and I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to change this one so it's a line entry exit. For both the entry and the exit, it's a line, and 90 degrees will be the angle, which will get it to be perpendicular to the part. And I can change my radius here based upon what the size of the circles are. So let's do a length here of 0.3, and if I hit OK now, we can see that each of these is getting a motion where it's going to pierce, move perpendicular to the entry point, and then move around the part. Right now, if I wanted to move this around, I would lasso this and group it again so that I could still treat it as a single object for moving things around. And I can also, when I come here and do my toolpath simulation, I can tell it I want to cut the female parts first and then the outer parts second to make sure that I get the right cut order and it doesn't cut the outside part first. Now, when it comes to some of the objects you might want to toolpath, where you might have some corners on them that you can take advantage of here to get a good entry-exit point, and I've got some down here too. We can do that by I'm just going to delete this here and start over. We can do that by first going to the Start Point menu, and I'm going to choose longest edge, but not check midpoint. So that's one factor here that we're going to do. And next we're going to go to the curve compensation, and we're going to change the entry exit type to corner. So it's going to try and take advantage of corners here. I've got it set to 45 degrees. And what it's going to do is, wherever necessary, it might change that to a wider or narrower angle, but anywhere it doesn't need to do that, and then it can put 45, it will use 45. So we can have 45 degrees as the angle to use if the other ones, if it won't be changed for any other reason. And what I found is if you don't have the right start point here, it doesn't put it in the right location. So you really do need to have the start point location to be set to the longest edge without the middle point checked. And then when I hit OK here, we can see that it's placing the entry exit on one of the corners here. So for the letter E, it placed it there. For the letter N, the letter R, each has that. The letter O doesn't really have a corner, so it's using the 45 degree entry exit, actually turning that into a 90 there. And then the same here. So that 45 kind of helps it to turn to a 90. Here it actually made a little bit wider angle, but put it right on that corner. And then this is one, I'm not quite sure why it ended up in the middle here. I'm checking on that, but occasionally you might need to change the entry exit location. So we're going to go to Edit Entry Exit. I'm just going to click on this little green spot and I can move it to one of these corners here. So I can move it right there, and now it's going to move that point. So I really, of all these, only had to move one of them, and it might have to do with those arcs there. As I said, I'm kind of checking on that. Now the inside parts. I could either manually adjust these, and I could go here and go to the toolpath menu and say Edit Entry Exit. I can edit the location of these, and possibly even, if I zoom in, Edit Entry Exit, we're going to do, an arc this time, arc, and turn it into a little different type of toolpath for the inside here. I might want to do this one as well, because I don't want to change everything. I just want to change this particular entry exit, so I don't have everything selected here. I'm just selecting them one at a time. So I'm going to go to Edit Entry Exit, slide this towards the middle here, and say I want to do an arc, okay. And now I've adjusted those two middle parts, and I could just decide if I wanted to keep this one. We might do a little testing, but if I want to just retool path this, then I can use my arc entry exit. And here I'm going to go 0.05 male arc entry exit. So I can just, if I know that it doesn't have a sharp corner, I can just retool path it, or if it's a mixed kind, I can do each individually here. Or what I can do is I'm gonna delete these, and I'm gonna select this, and then go to the edit menu and say select just the holes. And then the holes, I can do a female part too, using this 0.05 tool. And then it will put things there. And actually, when I'm doing the holes here, I'm going to hit Control Z for a second. I want to change the start point location to longest segment in the middle. That way it'll automatically go to where I might want it to be. Someplace it's not going to interfere with a corner. And now I can group these, select everything, and then hit my Control key and deselect those middle three grouped parts. And now I can do a corner entry exit. If I've already saved this here, I'm just going to go to the corner, change it to the same kerf, and then I'm going to go here to the start point, turn it back to the longest edge without the middle. So if I want a corner one, I'm going to go to the longest edge with nothing checked. Pretty much most of the rest of the time, I'm going to go with the longest segment in the middle. All right, so we'll come back here now. We will choose the corner entry exit, change it to the same kerf width of 0.05, and hit OK. And now we've got it on all the corners there except for this one here, where I'm gonna do a edit entry exit and just move that to the corner spot. So in this case, we did it male and female parts separately, and if I wanted to group those back together now, I can just lasso them and Control G. That will keep these parts together if I nest it or something. So that's how I can do things, the male and the outside and the inside, a little differently. But whenever possible, you want to go ahead and select it and just put everything without worrying about doing the inside and outside part separately. Now these have been fairly easy examples here, and I'm going to do one more example that's a little more complicated. Here we've got a part that it is blue and red. If I had another blue inside of a red, I'd have some more editing to do, but just blue and red is the outer part and some dropout holes. And I can see that there are different size shapes here. There's some smaller parts and some larger parts. And if I was to come here and apply just one toolpath to everything, and I do it as the blue and red, then it's going to keep everything here. I'm going to go to my 0.05 male arc. It will do everything, but if I want to make any changes to the insides of these, I have to make them change one at a time. So before I do that, I'm going to go here and just select the inside parts. So I can just drag my box and not quite go around the outer edge, or I can select everything here and go to modify selection, select holes, and now I've just got the inside parts. I'm going to go to F10 and make sure I have my start point is going to be back to the longest segment in the middle. And now when I go back to the curve comp, I can come here and say, all right, I'm going to use this primary female cut because I want these would normally be red parts. So I'm going to do a female cut and hit OK. Now, because I did them as a female cut as separate objects, I can go through and select them one at a time. They're not all kind of bound together by this blue and red toolpath in the container hole system. So that makes it easier for me to go and select the ones where maybe I just want to get rid of the entry exit point. You know, there's a few of these where just I don't probably want any entry exit point. So I'm going to select that one, hold my shift key down, and select the ones that I believe would be better off with just a pierce point. All right, as I'm hitting my shift key and my right click, I can pan around. I can use my scroll wheel to zoom in. I've still got those shapes selected up here. I'm just seeing what else I might not want to, where else I might not want to have one. And for the most part, these are bigger down here. So I think we're okay everywhere else. Maybe right here as well, this one shape. So now that I've got the ones I want to remove selected, I can say I want to, I'm going to come up here to the toolpath menu, edit entry exit. I'm going to put my cursor right over top of this and then hit this edit entry exit. And I'm going to tell it I want none here and none. And I'm going to say apply this to all the parts I have selected. So by being able to select these, by doing them as female parts, as separate objects and select them, I can modify a whole bunch of them at the same time. All right, now I'm going to come back up here and look at these and just make sure I like where the entry exits are on all these. You know, here's one where probably I would want to come here and do edit entry exit and make these a little bit smaller. So I could say either change the radius a little bit to 0.125, or I can make it a smaller angle, but I'm going to go ahead and just change the radius 0.125, and now it's going to fit inside that area a little bit better. I can move it if I want. All right, now I'll zoom around here and just kind of take a look at these. Anytime I want, I can put my cursor on one and move it to a desired location. And for the most part, putting it in the largest segment seemed to do a good job. There just might be a couple areas I want to put it into a little bigger part of the shape. This one definitely we want to move up here. All right, now here we have one where we're going to edit the entry exit again. I'll make that one 0.125. And we'll keep it at the 45-degree section there, so we can see if there's an area that we like better. I might just decide it's easier to remove that one. I'm not sure. That one's getting kind of small, but the rest of them here seem to be okay. So that's a place where, you know, there might be three different ways we need to do this. Some of them we're just going to select them one at a time and remove the entry exit altogether. Others we might go through them, edit them one at a time to make them fit inside a given area, and then the last ones will be big enough that we don't have to worry about them. And now we can put our toolpath on the outside of this as well, external, and that can be placed wherever desired around the outside there. And next thing we'd want to do is just group these together by selecting them and hitting Control G. That way if we move everything around, it's going to maintain those positions. Now I can come here and I can rotate this, say 90 degrees, and hit OK. And that's not going to change those start point locations. I can even make a copy of it. That does not change the start point locations. However, if I come in here and I make a change, and let's say I use a different kerf value, something like that will change the start point location. So changing the kerf is one thing, and actually it maintained the start point locations on that one, but there might be some areas where it still didn't quite get a good job, it didn't put the start point in exactly the best place. So in this one here, I'm going to come and edit this toolpath, edit the entry exit, and move that to a little better location. But it actually, when I changed that kerf, it did not change the start point location of most of those. There are some things you can do where it will change the start point location. If you happen to mirror a part, the mirroring process does not actually mirror the toolpath. It mirrors the geometries and then it recreates the toolpath. So if we do something like that, then it's going to be a process where we have to start over. So the only thing would be if you're going to mirror or resize a part, it's better to try and do that beforehand. Those two things would cause the toolpath to recalculate based upon the logic provided. But outside of that, minor changes in terms of even the kerf compensation or making a copy or rotating, and you should not lose your toolpath position. So this has been an overview of how to create entry exit points for plasma using EnRoute Fab and how to make some changes for it to suit particular circumstances.